proportion is key when it comes to many things. And size matters in many different ways, in many different instances. What's interesting is when perception is reality. Hello Internet, I am the hero of Julius, once again with another One Piece chapter summary. This week's chapter is chapter 1128, RPG. Which is an interesting title given the chapter itself. I might actually have to go back and talk about the chapter at the end of this video rather than here at the start. The artwork this week is very Harry Potter or Little Witch Academia or any type of wizardry that involves riding upon a broom. Mostly that's usually like witches and whatnot, but in more modern media, brooms are associated with magic in general rather than just the potion brewing, boil and trouble witches of the past. I really like this artwork because you got the whole crew together flying on these brooms. Robin's wearing glasses, which is always really nice. I really like the way she looks in them. Jinbei is on a dragon, which makes more sense than it should. If any member of the crew was going to forego a broom, I actually would have thought Frankie rather than Jinbei, though Frankie did turn his into a motorcycle that he and Nami are riding on. But yeah, it's just a nice artwork as usual. So the chapter itself actually starts off with the East Blue Five back together again, and Sanji is holding Nami, getting ready to safely get her off of this giant castle, and he's standing there as, I'm assuming last chapter we were all talking about this place being a dream, thanks to Usopp and Nami, maybe like this is just a hallucination caused by the absinthe. Well, Sanji lays that to rest, because as he's holding Nami, he says, nah, this place can't be a dream, because if this was a dream, there wouldn't be any men. And Nami only asks once, does not wait for an answer, but she's like, what kind of dreams are you having, Sanji? As Sanji jumps down and safely gets her to the ground. So I think that lays it to rest, because Sanji's absolutely right. If he was the one hallucinating, Zoro, Usopp, and Luffy would not be there. In fact, Zoro definitely would not be there. So, for those of you still theorizing that Nami is the one having the hallucination, it's possible, because in Nami's hallucination, Sanji would be the one there. But I think that theory is going to shatter, as proven by the rest of this chapter. Another nice thing to point out here is that Luffy actually tells Usopp, hey, I really think you could have taken on that cat, because I'm actually a little surprised you didn't beat it up before we got there. And Usopp defends himself by saying, hey, listen, I woke up to the cat eating me, which is horrifying when you think about it. Imagine you wake up and this 30-foot tall cat is currently munching on your leg. Even if you weren't as cowardly as Usopp, you probably would scream at that point. So this big cat, got beaten up, but Luffy believes it's something that Usopp could have taken on, which kind of is a nice little callback to Ruskaina, where Luffy, got on the island with Rayleigh, and Rayleigh was like, behold, the island that literally experiences new weather every week. On this island, there's about 50 monsters that could kill you in a single hit, but yeah, you'll get past that. You'll be better than that in no time. So it's not a widely used, or at least not widely seen, observation hockey trait, but it is a way to bring power levels into One Piece, where you can just tell by feeling something out with your hockey that this thing can beat this other thing. I don't know if that's a matter of Luffy being able to sense the cat and Usopp's will powers, or whether or not Luffy... I guess observation isn't exactly like the power level scanners from Dragon Ball Z or anything, but it's a feeling you get. When you look at two people and they can win into a fight. I'm really focusing way too much on this. Long story short, Usopp could have beaten the cat, Luffy confirmed it, and we all know what Luffy's battle knowledge is. So, of course, as the crew is discussing what to go and where to do next, this man comes driving by on his giant grasshopper. Very reminiscent of the Crawley Davidson from film's Strong World. But yeah, as he gets on there, we actually see another nice little callback to earlier stuff, as Nami and Sanji are the ones that jump away in terror of the giant grasshopper. Because remember, Sanji is actually right up there with Nami in terms of fear of bugs. Which actually makes a lot more sense now that we know Sanji's full backstory, because I actually think this is the first time we've had a real bug scenario since Sanji's backstory, because Sanji worked in a kitchen. That was from post Germa to pre Straw Hat Crew. Sanji was always living in a kitchen out at sea. Maybe the worst bug he saw was Bachi the fly that was, dropped into Full Body soup by Full Body himself. Other than that, though, if you're in a pristine kitchen, a 5-star restaurant, you're not going to see a lot of bugs, unless they're called for in a recipe for some reason. But even further than that, we know that Sanji grew up in the kingdom of Germa, where, yeah, it was wrong to feed a rat or something, but if Sanji was full-on Disney princess here and, fed rats and took care of, small critters and was nice to them in a relatively clean kingdom, because it's not like Germa had poverty. They had nothing but clone soldiers who probably cleaned up after themselves, as well as servants taking care of Sanji and his siblings. So even if you include his time in the dungeon, Sanji probably didn't see a lot of bugs in his life, which means the few times he did run into bugs were probably the unappealing, the horrifying portions of... Wow, I'm really going on tangents about, really small things here. I love the little details, the little callbacks. It's one of the things that makes One Piece so enjoyable to read. So this man on the giant grasshopper tells them, oh, you seem to be interesting new travelers. You must be new to the kingdom. Well, I must let you know that we've have some quite the turmoil going on. I can't go into full detail or anything because I must away to my master. You see, I work for the great Izcat. And Usopp goes, oh, is that a person who lives in the castle? And he goes, oh, no. Izcat is a cat, and he is the cat god. I don't think they actually call him the cat god, but it's a theme here. And he goes, I heard something horrible was happening in Izcat's castle, so we have to save him, and we have to check on the needle god, the porcupine, because he must be looking for his food, because he's probably hungry by now. It's time for feeding. And Nami's sitting there like, oh, the needle god, that's interesting. And he's like, yes, and it's horrible. You see, the rabbit god was recently charred to a crisp and eaten by some horrible monsters, which is a thing to say because the ear god is so mighty and huge. And Luffy's like, oh, that guy, yeah, and Usopp covers his mouth as he keeps talking, and he says, so there's a lot of, horrible things going on. Just wanted to let you guys know so that you can keep yourself safe. Now, I see you're heading down the road here. It's a good thing you're going that way, because if you went that way, you would be heading to the Sun God's Temple, which is an absolutely horrible place, covered in powerful beasts and guardians who will destroy anyone that comes towards them. Whoever faces that direction faces certain death. And as he's saying that, Nami's just like, dude, stop saying it that way. Please stop. Oh, yes, the horrifying pathway. Please stop saying it that way. Infinitely powerful monsters. You gotta word this differently. Oh, and the spoils of war in that direction. The carnage. The great warriors that could pass through there. No, none exist in this world that are stronger than the guardians that way. And poor Nami. Poor Usopp. Poor Sanji. As Luffy's standing there, he's just like, got it. Okay, so that direction's where all the big fighters are. That's where the most powerful things are. Yes. Oh yes, horribly. And that's the most dangerous direction then. Yes. Oh, by default, that would be the most dangerous direction. Oh, where's he going? As Luffy sprints off in that direction, Usopp sprints off after him. Nami starts running. She turns to the guy. She's like, sorry for the trouble. And she goes after him. And Zoro's like, ooh, so that's the direction of danger. And Sanji's like, look, guy, you're just don't get lost. Here we go. And of course, they head in that direction. As they are running towards the horizon, Luffy's like, hey, that castle up there looks just like the castle we were at. Oh, hey, there's a guy on the road running towards me. Well, that's okay. I'll just dodge him. And Luffy goes to dodge this mysterious stranger as the mysterious stranger collides with Luffy. It's a mirror. Luffy ran into a mirror. And no, this is not the work of the Mirror Mirror fruit by Brule. We're not in the seducing woods anymore, though it is kind of weird that Oda used the same joke twice. You know, if I had a nickel for every time Oda used a mirror to slam Luffy into a wall, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. So as Luffy slams into this mirror, the whole skyline shatters as a big hole in the mirror is revealed, and we see that the Straw Hat crew are in a cage. It is a big, huge cage on top of a desk, I want to say, but it's a diorama. You can see the horizon painted on the wall, and the castle's there, and the big tree is there, and Luffy and his crew are, you know, tiny little people in this giant diorama. As they slowly come to the realization, they're more like pets in a cage than anything. As they're figuring out their new surroundings, a voice comes from a sewing table nearby that says, "Oh, hey, are you guys on my side? Please come help me." And when they go over there, they find out it is Chopper. Chopper is crying, as usual. Whoever captured him put an iron collar on him that I'm going to guess Zoro or Luffy easily broke off for him. Nami's holding him, saying like, "Okay, I saved you, Chopper, so you owe me." And Usopp's like, "Weren't you just begging for help?" Whatever. The clothing on the table seems to be pretty well made and made for human-sized people, which is very interesting given that everything else around them is designed for giants. It's then that they realize, as they turn around and look at it, that the diorama is behind a one-way mirror. Apparently a new technology in the world of One Piece, because none of them even think that it is a one-way mirror. They just think, oh, this is some kind of magic glass or like a fancy wall or something. And Sanji's like, "Oh yes, this is quite the technology. A mirror on one side and you can see through it on the other. Nami, I volunteer to clean the women's bathroom once we get back to the crew." And Nami's like, "The hell you are? You are officially off that. When were you even on that duty? Sanji should not be allowed near the women's restroom. Neither should Brook." But as they are, again, discussing what's going on around them, they get attacked as this giant snake shows up and this massive crow shows up and the rats come from the floor as they realize the temple guardians of the sun god are just more giant animals. As Luffy actually dons on Gear 5th to start fighting these giant snakes and beasts, that is when a giant walks in. He's wearing a huge skull mask. Looks like a giant cow skull. And he's got big furry fur on him and a big robe. He seems to have really depicted himself as a sun god. He even has a big staff with a sun on it. And he opens the door to his room and it's on fire. It's like the meme where the guy comes in with the pizzas and everything's on fire in the room. Yeah, that's this guy. As Luffy's going around crazy, Zoro's slicing up mice, and Sanji's protecting Nami while Usopp and Chopper are screaming. I mean, it's chaos everywhere. As he looks at them and he goes, "What are you doing to my kingdom? My land, my glorious kingdom?" And they all obviously flee from the giant because we're hitting that point in Jack and the Beanstalk here where the giant's gonna fee-fi-fo their thumbs. And they get back into the diorama. They're running away from him and they see the cat. And the cat obviously looks at them, is ready to eat them. A single bonk later and they're riding on the cat as this giant is chasing after them. And Chopper's like, "Oh, hey, by the way, the cat says he hates you guys and he's going to get you for this." And Nami goes, "That's okay, duly noted." Which, again, another callback, so it's nice to see Oda getting into the swing of some of the older things about his characters. Chopper translating for an animal. I'd have to do some research. I can't even remember the last time we saw Chopper translate for an animal. So, nice to get back to some of our square roots here. So as this cat is running away, the people of the kingdom are freaking out because the sun god has arrived and he is going to bring his unholy wrath. He even tells the Straw Hats, "You shall not escape." Well, I'm sorry to tell you, buddy, but as a guy who owns a cat, if your cat's running away from you, you're not catching it. Oh my gosh. So I had to put flea medicine on my cat. And my brother's cat saw us doing that, so she decided that ain't gonna happen to me. So she disappeared. We learned about nooks and crevices in our house that I have been living in this house for so long and have never been aware of these parts of the house infrastructure. That is how well this cat hid from us. If your cat is running away from you, you ain't catching it. I don't care how strong you are. So this giant's in for quite the run, and honestly, that brings us to the RPG. I will admit, it's a little interesting that Oda chose this title. I'm not really sure where the RPG element comes into this, aside from they are characters in a world not of their own making. He's like the big bad boss of the campaign. I mean, as soon as Luffy goes Gum Gum Giant, he's going to see the sun god standing before him. So I don't know where this is going. More importantly, I'm a little concerned about what's actually happening here in this diorama. Keep in mind, giants can live up to 300 years. So, how long have these people been living here? They seem to be very confident in, like, the ear god, the needle god, the cat that rules in the castle, the big tree that's nearby them is Yggdrasil. Are these people okay? Have they been kidnapped? Is this a thing? Is this a thing on Elbaf, period? Like, is this why the Land of the Giants isn't fully documented in terms of the entire, world government or what have you? Is this just common practice? Do giants just kidnap people and add them to their dioramas? Or is this just one particular weirdo? Because it looks, from this perspective, it looks like he took a bunch of humans and their children, set the humans down in his diorama world, said, hey, your kids don't know what just happened. I'm going to crush you if you don't lie to them and tell them I'm the sun god, and they will live in this kingdom that I will provide for them. They just have to keep my softer pets entertained. My cat, my bunny rabbit, my porcupine, or hedgehog, sorry. And then as time went on, each generation lied to their children. Therefore, the children grew up and believed that this was the real world. Then they told their children that, and they told their children that. And I mean, one giant can survive, 4, 5 generations of humans. So this might be a giant in his, mid 200s. Maybe inherited the diorama from his parents, and they were doing this before that. So this could be like the last 600 years was this world. I'm not saying One Piece can't go that dark. I mean, we have had, the gigantification drugs on the children, and recently we just saw with Saint Saturn, Oda's not afraid to just... But that is a kind of a dark concept when you really think about it. It's, it really puts into perspective, if ants were sentient, would that make ant farms the most inhumane thing in the world? Creepy. Regardless, though, hijinks are about to ensue. I'm sure Luffy's going to free all these innocent people, or maybe they like living here. Maybe I'm not understanding. Maybe this is actually an agreement that was set hundreds of years ago in Elbaf, and actually this is like the most peaceful accord Elbafian giants and humans have. I don't know. We won't know until next chapter, which thankfully is only a week away. So let me know in the comments below. We are not in a fantasy anymore. We are in a full RPG, I guess. Still not exactly sure what RPG elements we're about to run into, but at least we know character customization's pretty cool looking. Thank you for watching as always, and I will see you in the next video. This is the Hero of Julios, Xing out.